Jason Bergman, Jacob's father.
Sarah Bergman, Jacob's mother.
Owen Bergman, Jacob's brother.
Rob Pittenger, Jacob's neighbor.
Kathy Pittenger, Jacob's neighbor.
Perfect. Make sure that's a line for me, Ellen. Spending the first 7 years of your life in chronic stomach pain really limits your enjoyment of life. And repeatedly leaving school early and spending many days at home not going to school at all because of these stomach pains made school feel awkward and inconsistent. When the issue finally solved, however, my life improved immensely and I'd never looked back. I have lived with celiac my entire life. It started with stomach aches every day in elementary school, and it made many days a nightmare. I could never pay attention in class because I was always distracted by the stomach pains, and I would frequently, often multiple times a week, ask to go to the nurse's office because I did not feel good. It got to the point where the teachers did not believe that I was actually sick and they thought I was faking it to try and get out of class. The nurses in the nurse's office grew to know me by name and would always say, "Hey Jacob, is it another stomach ache?" jokingly. And after many days at home and my mother confused on what was wrong with me, she took me to the pediatrician. It would take several doctors, however, to find the issue. The pediatrician did a couple checkups, but he could never figure out what exactly was wrong. So he had me go to Children's Hospital to a gastroenterologist. The gastroenterologist, however, hypothesized that it could be celiac. So he did some blood draws. He was looking for serological blood panels, which look for a high level of a certain antibody that is higher in people with celiac. We did these blood tests, but they weren't really conclusive. They were high, but not not outside of the margins. So he recommended an endoscopy. They would stick a camera down my throat, and they would look for scarring in the small intestine of my body. When we got the photos back from the endoscopy, the photos did indeed reveal that I had scarring in the small intestine, and that I was likely celiac. So at that point, I was diagnosed. After this, we spent time with this doctor learning about what celiac was and how to deal with it. We spent a couple hours talking about how I would have to live my life. I would have to completely remove gluten from my diet, and I would never be able to, it's incurable and I would never be able to eat it again. My body did not process gluten correctly, so it destroyed, instead of absorbing the gluten and nutrients, it would destroy the small intestine, and I would not absorb any of it, and thus I wasn't getting all the nutrients that I needed. After removing the gluten, though, however, life improved dramatically. After like 1 week, the stomach aches were completely gone, and I never have had them since. And my body began to grow. I was small before I realized that I had celiac because my body wasn't getting the nutrients it needed to grow. After I removed it, I started to grow much faster, my hair thickened up, and I've never looked back since. Life improved, but I was still upset that I could not eat many of my favorite foods anymore. From the story, you can tell that early years of my life were complex, and there was no apparent end in sight until we saw the doctor. And although I spent many days at home and not learning, I came to terms with my disease eventually and the new diet that came with it. Living a gluten-free life may seem odd and difficult for someone who's never done it, but after living this life for 16 years, I've forgotten what most of gluten tastes like, and so I have nowhere to look back to.
Awesome.